All right. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Um, Doing a surprise lesson tonight. I just thought I'd cover this right quick. There is a trick on how to defeat white supremacy, and the trick is we have to conquer this thing called the jealousy spirit, the envy spirit, and to do that, we have to go back to where everything started. And that's ground zero, which happened in Spain. Spain is the birthplace of the first race laws that were created. And this race law was called Limpieza de Sangre. And it's meaning like pure blood, like it slowly became, over time. It was about religious stuff at first, kind of, but then it morphed into anti-black racism, and then that's where we get the transatlantic slave trade. And then, of course, they had offspring when they came over here to South America. They had like the Latinos and the Cubans, the Guatemalans, all of them. Though that would make them the offspring of the Spaniards, and they brought racism too with it. And the worst of it is called Blanquintamo. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but this is what it looks like, Blanquintamo. Okay, and what it means is whitening erasure, right? Like they did a lot of dirty things, like trying to. Well, they did a pretty good job though too at it, like erasing black people. I know Argentina's been in the news lately, and you can see all the anti-black racism. So again, we would like to go over the fact that how to defeat white supremacy. So remember, Limpieza de Sangre. That was the first race laws that were created in Spain, and it's the reason why the transatlantic slave trade happened. And remember, the offspring. The Cubans, the Guatemalans, and Mexicans and all that. Especially Argentina. Argentina's been on the news a lot, so I just so it's very, very important. Like why we know these awful things are happening. Right here is this like. All right, this describes Noah's sons dividing the earth, building cities, and swearing binding oaths over their allotted inheritance. Warning against seizing another brother's portion under penalty of divine judgment. Okay. It says we defeat the spirit of white supremacy. This is the most important. This is the main. This is how we do it. Starting right off the bat hard. We defeat the spirit of white supremacy by crushing the jealousy / envy of white supremacy. That's how we do it. And as you know, Japheth is the father of the so-called white man, right? It's not Esau. Japheth. And the first thing that comes to mind is, Richard Spencer. And there's the Pepe the Frog meme, and it's from the alt-right folks. And then we got David Duke. And right here, as we see, we have this is the lineage of Japheth's the descendants of Japheth. And as you see here, if you look at Genesis 10:5, it shows Japheth right here. And as you can see, Javan, the biblical name for the Greeks is Javan. And, the biblical name for the Ashkenazi Jews is, Ashkenaz, right? And then Kittim would be Rome. All these are European nations, Gomer and Tarshish and all that. Tarshish is Spain. All right. And something very interesting happened right here. Chapter in the Jubilee, the book of Jubilee, chapter 7, verse 15, it says, "And he built for himself a city and called its name after the name of his wife, Nelatamaka." Sorry if I butchered that name. "And Japheth saw it and became envious of his brother. And he too built for himself a city and called its name after his wife, Dantes." Right? So you see right here, like Japheth has a jealousy problem. He has an envy problem. It's something really that explains a lot of things, right? And then the book of Jasher and elaborates more on why the sons of Japheth are so jealous, like, and why they particularly attack Africa a lot. So if we go into Jasher, excuse me, oh, oh, okay, we got Jasher here, chapter 7, 1 through 45. It says, "And these are the names of the sons of Noah, Japheth, Ham, and Shem, and the children were born to them after the flood, for they had taken wives before the flood. These are the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshiach, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Rephathah, Tagarma. The sons of Magog were Elanoth and Lubal. The children of Madai was Achan and Zelo and Shazoni and Lot. The sons of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Chittim, and Dodonim. And the sons of Tubal were Araphat. Yeah, yes. I think I'm gonna skip down because ain't nobody gonna remember that. But let me just move down a bit. Let's see. But I guess I can start here. And these are the sons of Ham, Cush. These are all black nations right here. Cush, Mitzrayim, Phut, and Canaan. 4 sons, and the sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabiah, Rama, and Satacha, I mean. And the sons of Rama were Sheba and Dedan, right? Let's see. So let's move down a bit. So I think I'm skip. Let me see. Where's a good spot? Just all right. This is remember Nimrod is an African, right? But can't say that to white supremacists, like God blessed them at one point. But let's get into this. Let's see. What's a good spot? Let me see. Like, All right, here's where we should start right here. It says, and when Nimrod, right here it says, and when Nimrod was 40 years old, at that time there was a war between his brethren and the children of Japheth, so that they were in power of their enemies. And Nimrod went forth at that time, and he assembled all the sons of Cush and their families, about 460 men. And he hired also from some of his friends and acquaintances about 80 men, and he gave them their hire, and he went with them to battle. And when he was on the road, Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the people that went with him, and he said to them, do not fear, neither be alarmed, for all our enemies will be delivered into our hands, and you may do with them as you please. And it says right here, it says, and all It says, and all the men that went were about 500, and they fought against their enemies, and they destroyed them and subdued them. And Nimrod placed standing officers over them in their respective places. So what here was happening is you got the Europeans, Japheth, attacked Nimrod, which will be black Africans. That black Africans fought back, and defeated them. And he put standing officers in to watch over them to make sure they don't do it again. And he took some of their children as security, and they were all servants to Nimrod and to his brethren. And Nimrod and all the people that were with him turned homeward. And when Nimrod had joyfully returned from battle, after having conquered his enemies, all his brethren, together with those who knew him before, assembled to make him king over them. And they placed a regal crown upon his head. And he set over his subjects and people princes, judges, and rulers, as is the custom amongst kings. And he placed Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of his host, and dignified him and elevated him above all his princes. And whilst he was reigning according to his heart's desire, after having conquered all his enemies around, he advised with his counselors to build a city for his palace, and they did so. And they found a large valley opposite to the east. They built him a large and extensive city, and Nimrod called the name of the city that built Shinar, for the Lord had vehemently shaken his enemies and destroyed them. And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar, and he reigned securely, and he fought with his enemies, and he subdued them, and he prospered in all his battles, and his kingdom became very great. And it says, all the nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him, and they bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings. And he became their lord and king, and they all dwelt with him in a city at Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel. So you got right here. So basically what happened is Japheth got jealous. He attacked Africa. Africa fought back and defeated them. And that's why I believe that there's a spiritual connection to why the Europeans can't stop bullying Africa. Why they keep going to Africa and they stealing the resources, and you know the whole story of awful things that happen. That's the reason. That's the reason why why Europeans are, aka Japheth, are so anti-black, because they have this spirit of jealousy that, I'm not saying all, Europeans are like this. I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about, the racist ones out there, okay? They're just saying, at least as a nation, they have a jealousy problem. And, and that's the reason why, Africa is just the way it is, why, they take advantage of it. It's spiritual. And here's a strategy I have here that whenever you get in trouble, use the prayers like this to get you out of trouble. All right, here's my plan strategy. You pray to Yah, who we know, which is known as God, amongst the Israelites, in the name of Yahshua, Jesus, the one they call Jesus, to crush this. For those that don't know, I'm just saying, okay, to crush the spirit of Japheth. Thus, you defeat white supremacy spiritually and physically. They have one spirit on them. So defeating, which is jealousy, y'all. So defeating them shouldn't be as hard as defeating Esau, who is in Jordan and Saudi Arabia, who has 3 spirits on them: the sword spirit, the wild donkey spirit, and Japheth's envy spirit. So defeating them is not going to be easy. Use these prayers to stop anti-black Israelite attacks. So that's how you defeat white supremacy. Like whenever you're in trouble, like you're getting attacked, it's best to pray. It's best to pray to Yah, to God. The one they call God, Yah, and to bind that jealous spirit that's upon the sons of Japheth. That's how you defeat them. Right? You gotta go directly to the source and target that envy spirit, that jealousy spirit that's on them. And let's say you're getting like we have another example here about Karen attacks. Like if a Karen is picking at you because she can't stand the fact that you're black, or you just mind your own business up in the like walking around in the park and they come up to you picking at you for no reason. Well, here's how you deal with that. So it says, when a Karen walks up to you, pray to yourself, or even out loud, for Yah, in the name of his son, Yahshua, the one they call Jesus, to bind the jealous spirit that is on Japheth. That's how you do it, right? And then we have another example of a prayer. It says, when you get pulled over by racist cops, ask Yah, the one way we call God, to protect your life from the jealous spirit that's on Japheth. To remember that the punishment is up, and deliver righteous judgment to the racist cop. And then finally, we have systemic racism here. Ask, Yah, the one we call God, to deliver righteous judgment to those that afflicted us during the 400 years of affliction. Remember what we went through in the bellies of the ships. I mean, that's what y'all tell you, yeah. That the 100 years of Jim Crow and the lives lost from Japheth's envy, and to use your Holy Spirit to protect us. Then we have Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, right? It says, we wrestle against spirits, not flesh and blood. As you know, Spain is ground zero, the birthplace of white supremacy, the beginning of slavery. Limpieza de Sangre in Spain enacted the world's very first biological race laws. And then their offspring, the Latinos, the Hispanics, Latinos, and Guatemalans and all them, they practice anti-black hatred, because they're the literal offspring of the white Spaniards, right? And recently you heard up in Argentina, about this called Blanquismo. And right here it says, because the paternal lineages of the Spanish conquistadors passed the Esau sword and betrayal spirit directly down to the colonial offspring of the Americas, those nations and political systems subconsciously operate of the perpetual hatred that is in Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. They are part of the corporate confederacy detailed in Psalms 83 that works to keep the true identity of Jacob hidden and cut off. The Deuteronomy 28:68. The verse in the says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Well, all it means was into captivity again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. And the reason, let's see, let me keep going here. All right, let's move it on. We're gonna go. Oh, well, what I was gonna say is, that's how you know that it's talking about, the transatlantic slave trade right there. Is because the prophecy lines right up of what happened to the Israelites. They got scattered. They went into captivity into all the world, like it says, right? So, but to remember, Japheth will get his judgment for all the wickedness that he's done, even after the 1,000-year reign, right? So just remember, though, I'm go ahead and say this right now: the final enemy that Yah, the one we call God, I mean the one that people, the one that people calls God, Yah. The reason, well, the thing is, the reason, what was I about to say? But basically, Japheth will, oh yeah, that's right. Here's what I'm about to say. The thing is, Japheth is responsible for, like, a lot of committing a lot of sins, like at large scales, right? They will be the final, as a nation. Now, I'm not trying to be, but as a nation, they will be the ones to gather their army together to attack God's kingdom, Yah's kingdom, right? And they are technically the final enemy that God Himself fights, destroys them before throwing Satan into the lake of fire to burn forever. And we know this because in the book of World Scrolls, chapter 1, 3 through 10, it says this. It says, the son of Levi, the sons of Judah, and the sons of Benjamin, those exiled to the wilderness, shall fight against all their troops when the exiles of the sons of light turned from the wilderness of the peoples to camp in the wilderness of Jerusalem. Then after the battle, they shall go up from the place, and the king of Kittim shall enter into Egypt, and his time he shall go forth with great wrath to do battle against the kings of the north. And his anger he shall set out to destroy and eliminate the strength of Israel. Then there shall be time of salvation for the people of Yah, and a time of dominion for all the men of his forces, and eternal annihilation for all the forces of Belial. World Scroll 1. And okay, in World Scroll chapter 1, verse 3 through 10, the Bible calls, the Europeans, aka Japheth, the sons of darkness. I'm just saying, as a nation, not all Europeans are bad, but as a nation, he calls them the sons of darkness. Also, the end of white supremacy, the supremacy of the Kittim shall cease, that wickedness become without remnant. There shall be no survivors, all the sons of darkness. And remember who he called the sons of darkness. It says, Japheth, the sons of darkness, and the supremacy of the Kittim shall cease. Right? It says, there shall be great panic among the sons of Japheth. That's judgment on the Europeans right there. It's right there. It tells you, said, there shall be great panic among the sons of Japheth. Assyria shall fall with no one to come to his aid, and the supremacy of the Kittim Excuse me. And Kittim is the biblical name of the Romans, right? It says, and to come to his aid, and the supremacy of the Kittim shall cease, that wickedness be overcome without a remnant. There shall be no survivors, all the Kittim, sons of darkness. Yah, Yah calls Japheth. Okay, I think I already went through that. Let me keep going. So that's something to look forward to. It says, Kittim Rome shall cease. So you got white supremacy ceasing. That's what Yah's basically saying. The supremacy of the Kittim. All right. So we must go through this timeline right here. As you know, the word Arab means mixed. So the Arabs are a mixed people, right? They have a lot of original. They have a lot of original dark skinned people, and and then you have the ones that are up north. They look a lot lighter. That's because the Greeks and the Romans mixed with them. Some of them had, like the Greeks had Susa weddings, right? And that's how we ended up getting the European, looking Arabs, right? The black ones look like Tyrone from down the street, look like your cousin from down the street. So, but Arab basically means mixed. They're a mixed multitude. They're a mingled people, right? And remember something, folks. Like I said, Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness. It's about the spirit. If they choose the spirit, then they're good, right? Like if they operate in the spirit of not hating on the Israelites, right? But we're gonna get into this. We'll show you what happened here, okay? Right here it says Psalms 86, the tabernacles. The tabernacles means tents, right? And it's of Esau and the Ishmaelites. And as you can see right here, you got the Arab tribes right here to the west here, the west coast here, and then we got kingdom of Edom here, and they shared the same borders, just south of Judah, right? So let's see what happened here. Let's see, Genesis 16:12. It says Ishmael. So Ishmael is what you call is the biblical name of the Arabs, right? It says Ishmael. It says he will be a wild donkey of a man, and his hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. He will live in hostility toward all his brothers. Excuse me. And it says Genesis chapter 27:40. Chapter 27, verse 40, it says, Esau, you shall live by the sword and serve your brother, but when you rebel, you will tear his yoke from your neck, right? And things, because what happens when people share a border? They start to mix. So right here it says, Genesis chapter 36, verse 2, it says, Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon, Hittite, and Bashmith, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebahat. And Adah bare to Esau Eliphaz. And when it says, and then as we know, Esau had a child with Ishmael and named the child Reuel. So think about it. You got Esau here of Yah saying Esau shall live by the sword, right? Then you got Yah saying that Ishmael shall be like a wild donkey. So what happens when two people that's got those spirits mixed together, right? That means that those spirits still gonna continue on. So they mix. And yeah, I get it, right? Like in the Bible, the like people are known that you are whoever your father is, regardless of who they marry, right? Like if a Edomite marries an Ishmaelite, or if a white person, or if let's say someone like a Egyptian marries and I don't know, a white person, right? They will still technically be an Egyptian, or if they marry an African, they will still technically be an Egyptian because you are whoever your father is. So I know what you're saying. Well, since Esau married Ishmael and had a child with Ishmael's daughter, and had a child with her, that means they would be that their child will be Esau as well, right? But people are forgetting something. The fact that an Ishmaelite male marrying an Edomite wife is also possible because just judging by human nature, they sharing a border. I think the point is that Yah is saying that they mix with each other. So meaning they combine that sword spirit and that wild donkey spirit together, which the Esau shall live by the sword, then you got Ishmael shall be a wild donkey. The fact that they mix together, meaning those spirits basically fuse together. Like, would you give like somebody that smokes crystal meth or something? Would you give him a sword? No, there's no way you would do that. Give him a sword. That's insanity. You wouldn't give a crazy person a sword. Like, who knows what chaos they would cause, right? And and that's what exactly happened. And so what happened was I asked the AI. I said, "Well, how long did Esau and Ishmael mix with each other before they conquered North Africa?" And the AI told me they mixed together for 2,000 years, meaning those spirits are definitely there. They were fusing together for 2,000 years. So that means it was going to be a vicious spirit, and I mean it is not going to be easy to defeat them. You do not want to mess with somebody like that. Okay, let's move on. And then, as you know, Esau mixed mostly with Canaanites and Ishmaelites. And the Canaanites, at least today, would be what you know as the Palestinians. Because I asked the AI, I said, what did I said, how did, oh yeah, I said how many did it was concerning the DNA, right? I said how much DNA does how much does the Palestinians DNA trace back to the ancient Canaanites, right? And the AI told me that it's at 90%, and also it told me that Lebanon has 90% of DNA of the Canaanites as well, right? And then since we know that Esau mixed with them, that would make the Palestinians Esau as well. And also another thing I want y'all to pay attention to is that Esau, Ishmael, which we call the Arabs, they mix so much that who can possibly tell them apart? It'd be kind of impossible, like, to really distinguish, well, who has the sword and who has the wild donkey. They mix so much it doesn't really matter. Like they all have those characteristics, same characteristics, right? Then we have Romans chapter 9, verse 11 through 13 here. It says Paul explicitly highlights the twins to show that their spiritual assignments operate independently of human choices. It says, for the children being not born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of Yah, according to election, might stand. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So they will be acting, they will have these spirits. They will be acting a certain way. Their descendants will be acting like this. It says right here, it says the blueprint. Paul writes this long after the Old Testament era, proving that the spiritual separation between Jacob and Esau is permanent. Cosmic division that dictates how bloodlines behave throughout the ages. And as you know, they took that wild donkey spirit and that Esau shall live by the sword spirit across North Africa. And then they conquered Spain. Then they mixed with the Spaniards for 800 years. Right? So it's going to be, their blood's going to be diluted. Not saying they conquered all of Spain and turned them all into Edomites, but they did they did mix with them so much that they cause a significant amount of their blood to always be tainted, though. At least you can have someone from Spain that can look completely white, like Nick Fuentes, but that Esau spirit will always be there. They can never ever be completely like white, like completely European, right? So that spirit definitely hitched a ride. Both of the spirits hitched a ride over, and because they mix with European women there, you know, because because they mixed with European women there. Well, I kind of lost my train of thought here. Because they mix with them, that's right. They would have all three spirits in them. Because, you know, remember, Japheth has the jealousy spirit. So that means all their offspring will have three wicked spirits on them. They'll have Japheth's envy spirit. They will have Esau's sword spirit. And they would have Ishmael's wild donkey spirit. And then what surprised me is that the Europeans refused to assimilate up in Spain with the Muslims. They hated watching their women getting, you know, essayed right in front of them and with all these harems and stuff. So that's what's happening here. And of course, they didn't like that. The Europeans couldn't stand the thought of that. So they stuck with, even after all being ruled by them for 800 years, they created their first race laws to counter what they were seeing. So Esau actually indirectly made the Europeans in Spain worse and helped give birth and rise to white supremacy. So it's technically Esau's fault for white supremacy indirectly, because Esau is from the Middle East. Esau is not the European, but since they mix heavily with the Spaniards and the Moors, right? That brought that Esau spirit to Spain, right? And then they had offspring, which would be your Cubans, Mexicans, Latinos, and Hispanics, and all that, Guatemalans. They all have that Esau spirit. Well, not all of them, but you know, if they choose it. But because of the mixing, they are subjectable to it, right? And the Arab slave trade lasted 1,300 years. It was way longer than the transatlantic slave trade. And when I have a theory, I believe the reason that Yah talked about the 400 years because Satan knew that the Israelites were going to be punished for disobedience. So Satan tried to get ahead of it by starting the punishment earlier. And he was able to do that because of those three wicked spirits. Right? Because of and so that's why I ended up lasting 1,300 years. But at the end, Yah still said it would continue with his plan because he's always in control. And so he still completed the 400-year captivity, which ended in 2019. And now Yah is slowly lifting the curses off of us because we served our punishment, right? And then we have Zechariah chapter 1, verse 15, and it says, "And I am very angry with the nations that feel secure. I was only a little angry, but they went too far with the punishment." So you got Yah saying they went too far with the punishment. We was only supposed to go into we was only well, the thing is that Esau went too far because he was trying to erase us, right? And then we know what the punishment looked like, how far they went. We know what happened in America and all around the world where we're persecuted. And I agree because they used to have this thing called alligator bait up in up and down south, right? And so we know how they went too far with the punishment, with the slavery. Like, it was far more brutal. And, do we even need to get into it with Reconstruction and all that, and Jim Crow? But it's the truth, right? And right here it says, Zechariah chapter 1, verse 15. It says, "And I am very," no, my bad. Sorry about that. It says, "And Aloha bare Jush and Korah, these are the sons of Esau, which born to him in the land of Canaan," right? And as you know, this is Saudi Arabia. You see Timan. This map is wrong. Timan should be up here in Jordan. But anyway, Timan to Dedan right here, okay? But in Genesis chapter 36, 6, it says, "And Esau took his wives and his sons and his daughters and all the persons of his house and his cattle and his beasts and all the substance which he had got in the land of Canaan and went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir." Esau is Edom. Mount Seir is located in, right? So when you look up here, you got Mount Seir right here. And you got all these places mentioned, which is in Saudi Arabia. And as we see here, if you look at the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, page 135, it says Esau and Ishmael. It says this was carried away by Esau and Ishmael and their descendants into Arabia, where the Arab continue them through the centuries, always with a feeling that it was decidedly wrong to change. Zondervan Bible Dictionary, page 135. All these coupled with the traditions and use of the extent of Ammon, the present Badon Arab tribes led by Esau and Ishmael and their descendants into Arabia, where the Arab continued them through the centuries, always with the feeling that it was decidedly wrong to change. And Yah says he'll destroy Timan. He destroy Esau from Timan, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. In Ezekiel chapter 25, 13 through 15, it says, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yah, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and I will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Timan, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword." So it's obvious that Yah blames Esau the most for the slavery, all the persecution we went through. It's all their fault, y'all. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel, and they shall do in Edom according. So y'all saying that he gonna use his Israelites to go at himself. I mean, he gonna use the Israelites to go after and attack Edom, right? According to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, saith the Lord Yah. And right here, oh, ouch, ouch, ouch. Excuse me. All right. It says right here, it says to prove it, it says, and it says right here, y'all, it says, and the captivity of the host of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites, which means Palestine, because Palestine was part of the slavery too that happened to the Israelites. A lot of the black slaves that were in Palestine indirectly ended up in Spain, you know, from the coast of Palestine, basically. Right? It says, even unto Zarephath, and the captivity of Jerusalem, which is in Sephard, the biblical words for Sephard is Spain, shall possess the cities of the south. South of what? South of Israel, meaning that Esau, they're going to be going after Esau that is south of Israel. Notice how that's not America. We got a lot of false doctrine out there that try to say Esau European. But that can't be possible, because Obadiah 1:20 shuts that down. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord Yah, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. That's Ezekiel chapter 25, verse 13. And this is what's really made my jaw like go through the floor right here. When Jesus comes down, he's not gonna land in the European countries. He's gonna land in Jordan. He's gonna take everybody out with the sword by his own hands. With his own hand, he's gonna take them out, because it says in Isaiah 6, chapter 63, 1-6, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. So he's going to come down and save it. He's the only one that can wipe out that spiritual wickedness once and for all. He's going to take out everyone that gave themselves over to that wicked Esau spirit. Right? As Isaiah chapter 63 says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel. That's talking about Yahshua, when they call Yahshua Jesus, right? Yahshua is apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth a wine fat. I have trodden the winepress alone. So that's Yahshua saying that he's striking down people alone with his own sword, right? And of the people there was none with me, for I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed has come. And I looked, and there was none to help. See, nobody was going to be helping when the son of Yah, the one they call God, the one they call Jesus, Yahshua, he's going to come down and be slicing people up, particularly where Esau dwells at, which is in Jordan to Saudi Arabia. It said, and I looked, and there was none to help, and I wondered that there was none to uphold. Therefore mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. So the one they call Jesus, Yahshua, is basically saying, I don't need y'all help. I'm finna do this all by myself. I'm gonna wipe out Edom with my own sword. That must be a sight to see, because you're talking about the guy that fed you're talking about You're talking about Jesus right here, the one they call Jesus, Yahshua, who once fed, multitude of people with just fish and a few loaves of bread and fish, right? He fed 1,000 people, right? So that must be a sight to see when he starts cutting people up like from Jordan through Saudi Arabia. And it says, "And I will tread down the people and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength to the earth." So says, "I have." So let's read that one more time. "I have trodden the winepress alone," meaning he's gonna be cutting people up by himself with his own sword. "And of the people there was none with me, for I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come." That's Isaiah chapter 63, 3-4. So we did it, right? So that's how we defeat white supremacy. Remember, that was the main goal, right? Of how to defeat white supremacy. I thought I'd talk about what happened to Esau as well, since they made what we call the Europeans this way, aka Japheth. That's what makes them this way. So I'm hoping y'all use these to pull out these prayers, like pray. So all right. So just end the stream. And so thank you guys for watching, and we're out.